Are you feeling lost in art? Have you drawn for some time now, but you're unsure of what to draw next and how you can improve as an artist in a good way? Hi, I'm May, and in this video I want to show you a way you can refocus yourself in your art in case you are feeling lost. As an artist, all the possible things you can improve on, study, or just draw in general can be very overwhelming, since there's always room for improvement. Because of this, I've sometimes struggled with what I should or want to draw next, and for this reason I wanted to create this video as a help to any artists out there struggling with similar things. And the purpose of this video will be to reorient yourself in your art and define what it is you want to focus on next in your art. To achieve this, I'll talk about different steps you can take, while also doing it myself with my own art to provide you with a direct example, and because I also kind of felt lost in my art and wanted to try doing this myself. Overall, I hope this will be of help to you, and let's begin. The first step we're gonna take is to look at your current artistic inspirations. For this, you can pick 3 to 10 artists you current and then define what about their art you like. You can then also compare them and just find out what is similar with their art and what do they draw. Now I'll switch to doing this part myself. Okay, here we are on Instagram, and I picked some of the artists I'm following there, and we're gonna have a look at them. And yeah, I'm gonna do the part of this exercise now. And this is the first artist, Haru Foki. What this artist does is draw mainly characters, you can probably tell. And then what also stands out to me when I look at all this art is that there are lots of saturated colors and mostly just portrait drawings. On here you also see more of a full body drawing, but it's mostly portraits of anime guys, and yeah, the style is sparkly, I would say, and there are also lots of details on the outfits and also on the hair, but you can also see that the artist uses lines and likes to play with color a lot. And for this drawing, the artist also makes use of subsurface scattering and so on. I think for this artist, and what I particularly like about this artist is just how the overall illustration looks all together with the backgrounds and the character combined. Also the use of colors, but the colors and the overall composition, putting the rather simple backgrounds, that's not a fully illustrated background, but okay, except for this one maybe, but putting those together and also using these aesthetic elements. Next we have this artist, Misa. I really like their art, and it's just so cute, and that's also what I really like about it. Just how cute it looks, and I also like that it's very focused on characters and very simple, and you can already tell. I also really like to draw characters, and I particularly like the characters this artist draws because I really like Genshin Impact and Ensemble Stars. But overall what I really like about the style is also the faces, how this artist draws the faces. I like the proportions, but then of course again the colors and how the overall illustration looks when you combine all the backgrounds, the elements, and then the character. That's it for this artist, and now let's look at the third one, which is Kome, and this artist draws mostly Genshin Impact characters. You can already tell my subject matter, I like fan art a lot, mainly portraits again, but overall also lots of half body, sometimes illustrations. The colors the artist uses are also pretty muted and not as neon, like for example for Haruki. And this artist also plays a lot with the lighting, as you can see. And I really like how soft the lighting looks. And what I also like about this artist is the way they stylize the faces. especially the ones that are from the front. Yeah, and this illustration, I also like this a lot. The way the bodies are drawn is also inspiring to me. And then lastly we have this artist, which is Marie, and they like to draw characters again. What stands out about this art to me is the colors especially, and how bright and just colorful it looks. And I also really like the facial proportions. Especially when I try to pick like for these illustrations, and also the way the eyes are drawn in particular. Yeah, but the colors of this piece, for example, I really like them. Yeah, and you can see again this artist draws lots of characters and also sometimes puts them in real environments and also draws the environments. And I mean, these sparkle effects, they look like from a game where you have these cards of characters, the CGs. And I also think that that's also a big inspiration for me. But yeah, that's it for the artists that inspire me. And I hope you could also get inspired by them a little bit and understand how you can use this step to define what you yourself really like. And now that the first step is done, let's move on to the second one, which is the own critique and looking at your own art. And for this, you can generally figure out what you want to improve on. You can either look at some projects you did or just some one-off illustrations, depending on what kind of artwork you have produced in the past. I would also recommend not going too far back. You don't want to look at your childhood art necessarily, but at art that you did not too long ago, so you can really focus on what you currently want to improve on. And now I'm gonna do this step in real time again and hopefully show you how you can approach this as well. And I picked out some projects and I've ordered them from the time I drew them. So this one is the oldest and this one is the newest, but then this one from the folders is the newest. Maybe I'm gonna use this program, which is called PureRef, and it's very useful to get your references all together. I'm gonna pick out the ones and then put them all here. Now we have them all side by side. It's a very useful program. It's free. You can also download it if you want to. For these illustrations, if I look at them now, well, I used some simple backgrounds and I like that there are just some elements in the background. I know that I don't want to be a background illustrator. I might do some backgrounds for some illustrations, but doing simple elements like these, I like that. But I think I could also change it up a little bit. But these simplistic backgrounds, it's better than nothing, I think. If I look at the illustrations, for these ones, I actually am quite happy with them. I think they look okay mostly, but these ones, I don't like these two ones, but for example, the three upper ones, I like how they turned out. I just think I could maybe make the colors a bit more interesting for some of them, like adding an additional light source or something like that. And also on the face, adding some highlight on the nose. Yeah, what I don't like about these two is, for one, the proportions of the body. I think the arms here are too thin, and overall how the body looks, I don't like it. And I also don't like how the folds of the clothes turn out here, especially on the pants. It looks kind of weird. The face also looks off to me for this one. I just don't like how the face turned out. It doesn't look appealing to me. I mean, the faces are not very detailed because it's a full body illustration. But what I would improve is just overall from all these illustrations is the line thickness. For these illustrations I didn't vary my line thickness a lot, and when I also look at the artists I analyzed before, most of them have more varying line thickness, and also some of them use colored lines, which I didn't use for these illustrations. Yeah, the proportions of the heads and bodies sometimes work for me, but sometimes also not. But that's it for this project. Let's now look at the next one, which are the MBTI drawings. I'm just gonna use the 4 ones where I have all of the characters together. Yeah, I think the quality is still okay. Yeah, for these ones it's actually a bit interesting because I like this one the most out of all of them if I had to pick one, just the facial proportions and so on. But this is the first one I drew, and I kind of came up with the style I wanted to use for all of the rest of the illustrations in this one. But then, for example, for this one, the face doesn't work for me. It doesn't look symmetrical. And also for this one, I liked how this one turned out, but this one again, the shadow here is too dark to me. This one is okay. I like how it turned out, but overall the bodies and clothes, I like how they turned out, but for some of them, for this one, for example, I would change up the folds a lot. I like this one, and for this one, the eyes, I don't like how big they are, and they look kind of creepy to me. And for this one, I don't like the face as well. For this one, I think the face is okay, and yeah, you can see that it's pretty similar. My critique is mostly focused on the faces and how they look. For this one, I like how the face looks. For some reason, I probably also spent the most time on this one. What I like about these illustrations is the way I colored and shaded them. In general, I used cell shading and sometimes blended it. I think maybe sometimes the shadows could be more colorful, but I think it's already quite similar to the approach I want to still use. And I also want to change up the hair highlights a bit. Don't want to use these lines, but yeah, more of like zigzag shapes, like here. I think it's just, I like how it looks, but I would add a few things, like maybe make the hair a bit more detailed sometimes, and the folds, how they look sometimes, and the lines are not colored again. What bothers me the most are the eyes, probably, if I had to pick one thing, and the face symmetry overall. Overall, I like how these illustrations turned out. And in the illustrations I drew characters, which is also what I really am motivated to still draw, and yeah, focusing on the faces but also the bodies. I think both these series are similar to what I still want to draw in the future. Here I have some illustrations of OCs I did. And for these ones, I don't like the facial proportions that much. For this one, I like these ones, but here something's off to me. This one's okay, this one's a bit off, and this one's a bit off too. Just looks too, I don't know, not cute enough. And when I have to compare these illustrations to these ones, what I notice is that the lines are thinner. I prefer the lines to be a bit thicker than here. Overall, I think that's what I can really learn from this project, because I used thinner lines, even thinner lines here. And for these ones, I like how the bodies look, but some things with the proportions don't work out that well. Mostly the upper legs, they are too long. But I like the outfits and the color palettes. I like the pastel colors. I prefer them over the colors here. So I think from these illustrations I would take the colors, but the proportions and so on, not that much. I would rather use proportions similar to these ones. Now let's have a look at this project. I did this after all the other ones, and I don't like how the faces turned out at all with these ones. I don't know what happened, because normally you would improve over time and not get worse, but for some reason I really don't like the faces. I don't like them at all. And the shading as well, it's just so boring to me. I have no problem with critiquing myself like this. It's important as artists to not put your own self-worth into your illustrations, and if you like them or not, I just look at this as my work, what I made, and yeah, it's just what I was able to do at the time. But yeah, I can definitely learn from it that I don't want to use an as intense face shadow as here probably, and I also don't like how red the skin looks. With the perspective, the overall clothing items still look too flat. The bodies are in the perspective, but the accessoires and so on, it all doesn't really fit the perspective that much. And then yeah, what bothers me the most is always the faces. I can just see sometimes this face, just this lower part is too long to me. For faces, for me, in the end, what counts is, does the face look appealing? Does it look cute? Do I want to look at it and maybe have it as my profile picture or something like that? And for all of these ones, I don't think so. And for this one, what happened with the mouth and the nose and so on? It's just, from these illustrations, I'm gonna take that I don't want to use facial proportions like this. I think the eyes are maybe too small, and also the eye shapes just look weird. Yeah, you can be very detailed with this, and now I have a look at the eye shapes. This eye shape is alright. This one, the eyes are way too big, way too far together. I think the jaw most of the time is just too big, the lower part of the face. But yeah, that's just... And then we have lastly this project. Here I drew some Genshin Impact characters in a band and used some foreshortening. I got the poses from Pinterest. I'm not able to come up with poses like this myself yet. Who knows if I'll ever be. I think, well, the bodies are okay since I drew them from the Pinterest references. What's better than with the booth illustrations here is that the outfit pieces look like they are in the correct perspective most of the time. But I still don't like how the faces turned out with these ones. I can see here I used this point for a nose, which I don't think I want to do. I don't like how the faces turned out for these ones. They look too sharp to me. Not really that cute. But what I like is the more detailed shading on the hair. Most of the time I wouldn't do it the same way as here, but I would want the hair I draw to be a bit more detailed than here, but still similar. Now let's just look at the final illustration, and then yeah, this one is the newest one. I don't really like it that much. I don't like how the colors turned out. The faces are they are definitely longer than in it's from Ensemble Stars characters, and they are definitely longer than the faces there. And for example here the hair is too big in comparison to the face. Yeah, I don't like this illustration that much, but what I think works are the bodies mainly. They are thinner than in the Ensemble Stars game, but that's also just from what you can probably tell, a way I stylize all of my drawings almost. This one, the least stylized this way probably. In general, I like to draw thinner proportions, but I also struggle with sometimes them being too thin to me, so yeah. Yeah, and I think I could improve a lot on the lighting. It's just, it looks so simple, but it could look so much better if I did something a bit more dramatic or something like that. Yeah, and again, with the line thickness and so on, I would use a bit thicker lines like here, and more varying line thickness overall. I think with none of these projects I used as much varying line thickness as I would want to use in the future. And for these ones, the lines are too thin for me again. Yeah, just something I want to kind of show you with these projects. This is how it evolved over time, and if I had to pick which ones I like the most, it's the MBTI ones. I really like how the faces and so on, anatomy, clothes and everything turned out compared to all the other ones. I preferred way over these ones, and especially these ones, even though I did all of these afterwards, which I find very interesting. Yeah, as I said, I like the colors from these ones. I just want to show you this so you don't feel bad if you noticed something similar, that you don't seem to have improved over time, but I can guarantee you have improved. You just tried different things. Through trying these things, I can see how my art would look if I used this type of style, shading and all of the things. But then I look at what I did back here and I realize I like it more. So in the future, I'm gonna focus on mainly including proportions like here, but then also colors like here, and maybe also simplistic backgrounds like here. And also what I realized from all of these drawings is I only very rarely draw just the head. I will most of the time draw either a half body or a full body drawing, and I very rarely do illustrations like these. Overall, I now know that in the future what I don't want to continue using in my art from these ones, and I can tell what I still want to include. And I hope that me showing you this for one taught you the same things that I learned from looking at my art, what I want to improve on, but at the same time also shows you the way you can approach this step on your own. Now that the second step is done, and I've also looked at some of my old art, which is always interesting. The third step now is to compare the inspirations you had in the beginning in the first step to your own art and notice the differences, and especially for the stylistic choices, how your favorite artists stylize characters, backgrounds and everything, and also what kind of colors they use. Then define what exactly what you need to focus on to get closer to your artistic inspirations. Again, I'm going to do this myself. Here we are back with my own art. And I think I'm gonna line this up like this. And now let's have a look at the Instagram artists over here. For this one, the artist does more of portraits and more complex backgrounds. So maybe what I want to do in the future is implement more complex backgrounds. The backgrounds are a bit similar to these ones and these ones, with some shapes sometimes on just these aesthetic elements. And I really like that part. So yeah, instead of just doing simple backgrounds like here, and also not illustrated like here, I want to focus on these type of backgrounds. And also with the colors, well, I have kind of a bit of a problem, since I really like how the colors here turn out, but at the same time I like how the colors here turned out. And these colors also look nice, as well as these colors, and the levels of saturation are different for all of them and what type of colors. But if I had to pick them myself, I know that I like the colors down here the most. I wouldn't use oranges and yellows and reds a lot, and also more pastel colors. So I like the way this artist shades. So maybe from this artist I could take the sometimes colorful shading, and also sometimes using subsurface scattering and not just cell shading like here. Then also include some more complex lighting situations overall. And compared to this artist, you can already tell that the palettes are a bit more similar to mine, and I think I really like the palettes. And compared to my own art, I would say that yeah, I can again implement some more background elements and focus more on not using a too realistic color palette, which is, yeah, I actually don't like these colors up here and those colors that much. I think they can be very boring. These colors are a bit better, And these ones, yeah, I said, I like them more. So I want to include a bit more of a cute coloring style. This artist also colors their lines often. That's also something I definitely want to use in my own art. And I would also want a bit more detailed eyes like this artist uses, not just the ones I used here, with just a point, but yeah, sometimes the eyes here have these hearts in them or sparkles. And overall, look at the hair and the accessoires, and whoa, just so many sparkles. And yeah, I really want a bit more detail for the hair, for the outfits, and also this kind of texture. That's something I could definitely use in my art. And from this artist, I wouldn't want to use the color palette that much, but what I can definitely take from this artist is the more complex lighting situations sometimes. And all of these illustrations are more like illustrations and not just characters standing. These are all a bit more like just characters, but yeah, also sometimes different things a bit. But I would want to rather use more of a simplified shading, so that's sometimes blended, a bit more like this, but still the hair is very detailed for this, for example. And then finally we have this one, and what is a bit similar is the kind of more of a cell shading style most of the time, just sharp shadows and also pretty colorful shadows. And I also really like how this artist does the faces. All of these artists, I think they just have a very good take on drawing faces correctly so that the perspective and symmetry looks okay, and also drawing very pretty eyes. In general, the faces look really cute to me, and to get closer to this, what I should probably do is just change up the proportions a bit, have the faces maybe not be as long as in my illustrations and a bit more rounded if I compare them overall to the other ones, and also adding a bit more detail in the eyes. And then finally with the colors, focusing on more colors like this, but then also a bit more advanced shading for hair and the clothes. That's what I would say would be the steps I have to take. And finally, the last step after you have compared your inspirations to your own art is the subject matter and figuring out what in general do you like to draw next. Of all the inspirations in past art you've gathered, what is actually portrayed in it? Is it characters and backgrounds, or maybe plants or animals? And you can also get more refined with this. For example, what kind of aesthetic the art is related to, or in which genre it fits, more of a fantasy or more casual, modern style. For example, for my art, I would want it to be more of a cute aesthetic and looking soft. You saw the artist Misa, who very much resembles these softcore, happycore aesthetic. And if you want to portray a style like that, then that's definitely also something you can figure out here. For me, I would definitely just focus on the characters and simplified backgrounds. This is the final step, and then from all of these steps, when you've done all of them, you can create your own guide, what to draw next and what you want to study and focus on. You can also do this by making some defined goals like drawing 10 hands every day for a month. For the subject matter, what you like to draw, you don't only have to look at what you draw yourself and the artists you like to draw, but also you can probably tell yourself what are you very motivated to draw, what do you like to draw a lot, or maybe there's something you wanted to draw for a long time but haven't done yet, then you can also include that. My own guide, for example, I noticed that I was struggling with the faces especially a lot, but then also that my colors and lighting were too simple oftentimes. For me, for example, the next steps I would take is to really focus on drawing more faces and heads every day, figuring out what kind of proportions I really like, and then a way of stylizing the eyes, for example, so that they look nice. And then also playing around with colors some more. Other things you can also focus on is maybe the anatomy or the hair of the clothes of the characters. yeah, I would just suggest to only pick 1 to 2 things to really focus on. You can then do this by either studying those things or using them in projects. And best would be a combination of both. Maybe you draw 10 heads every day just as studies, and then you do 1 illustration every 2 days with a character that has a head. And yeah, just applying what you learn in your studies. And overall, I hope that from this guide you can then come up with new project ideas, and you can also look up drawing exercises for this. Some examples for this include a character design challenge, 100 head challenge, or hand studies. If after these steps you still feel like you want to do something else to really reorient yourself in your art, I can also recommend doing an art style challenge or just redrawing some of your old art to see how your current development is from then. That's it for the steps. If you've drawn for a long time without reflecting on your art, you might get lost in all the projects while not improving as quickly as you can. And from time to time I also feel like I'm not improving and that all of my art looks bad, which you can also probably tell from when I was critiquing my art earlier. Do you relate to looking at your own art and feeling like it could be so much better, whereas when you look at others' art you're amazed by how it looks and you wonder how you would ever get to a level similar to them? These very experienced artists often feel the same way about their own art. In a way, this is kind of comforting since it means you're more similar to them than you may think. Just in general, artists often deal with this imposter syndrome the whole time, so it's good to just get used to it. Being very critical about your own art can both be good and bad. It's important to use this feeling as a fuel to improve while not getting demotivated and discouraged by it. Yeah, that's why I created this video. I hope this provides you with a plan for what to draw next and helps you on your art journey. It's a good idea to repeat this whole review and reorienting from time to time to improve in your art and also be aware of the improvements you've made. And that's it for this video. I hope you have a great day and goodbye.